Columbia, Houston. Good morning.
Good morning, Houston.
We have you loud and clear. We have 20 pages of mail and the tags waiting for you. The big plan for today will be just to subtract an hour 30 from all the times in the flight plan and the PCAP. We're about to go LOS in a couple minutes. We'll see you on the other side at 20:03.
Okay, we'll see you there.
This view aboard Columbia is from the Space Lab module. In this view is payload specialist Millie Hughes-Fulford, and this television is in support of one of the activities that the crew does is take blood samples, and the payload crew made up of mission specialist Ray Sudden and payload specialist Drew Gaffney, Millie Hughes-Fulford, and mission specialist Jim Bajan.
Columbia, Houston, back with you on the west. We copy. Yep.
And this view is of crew members Drew Gaffney, Jim Bajan, and Millie Hughes-Fulford as they continue to take blood samples in support of the Space Lab Life Sciences flight. Again, the reasons for taking the blood samples on this mission is to help understand the decrease in red blood cells that occurs during space flight. The crew did give blood samples were taken from the crew members prior to launch, and also will be taken, as is the case now, on orbit, and again we'll be taking blood samples after landing to get an idea of just the makeup of the red blood cells in the system.
Marshall, Space Lab.
Space Lab, this is Marshall, Huntsville. Good morning.
Good morning, Huntsville. This is PS2. We were talking about one of the experiments that we thought the commander was doing for E-192, and we can't find the tracer for him.
PS2, it's not labor, and we understand it is the spare.
This is payload operations. Payload specialist Millie Hughes-Fulford storing some samples here in the refrigerator aboard Space Lab. This is payload operations. Dr. Drew Gaffney is setting up the equipment required for experiment 022, the baroreceptor reflex. Electrocardiograph electrodes are connected to a monitoring system, and the test subject will wear the collar currently fastened there to one of the Space Lab racks. While the data is monitored, the collar pressure can be varied, and the reflexes of the heart rate will be measured and recorded on board, as well as on the ground. Ray Seddon is setting up for experiment 198, the pulmonary function and weightlessness test. The crew member breathes into a rebreathing assembly, as the instrument is called, and breathes in and out a pre-mixed selection of gases. This is Payload Operations. Ray Seddon conducting one of the scheduled sessions for the pulmonary function during weightlessness test. She will be breathing a mixture of various gases in and out. The gas analyzer mass spectrometer instruments will analyze the rebreathed gases, and the information will be continuously recorded about the flow of the breathing. All of this data will be used by the scientists on this experiment to look at the distribution and the movement of blood and gas within the lungs and how these measurements compare to normal respirations. Scientists hope to develop a model of lung function to serve as a basis for comparison for the normal lung and the diseased lung. Jim Bajan is serving as a test subject for Experiment 22, the baroreflex investigation. The neck collar resembles a whiplash collar, and it can be deflated and then slightly inflated. When the cuff or the collar is slightly inflated, it compresses the carotid artery where the baroreceptors are located. That compression or tightening signals the brain that the blood pressure is falling, and the brain responds by speeding up the heart rate to increase blood flow. When the neck collar applies suction, then the carotid arteries stretch slightly, and the brain reads that information as the blood pressure is rising, so the heart rate slows down. As each test subject undergoes this test, the information about the heart rate and the response of those baroreceptors will be recorded. This is Payload Operations. Dr. Tammy Jernigan storing some more samples from this morning's metabolic blood draws that were already completed. Jernigan is the prime crew member responsible for centrifuging and processing those blood samples just before they're stored. This is Payload Operations. Mission Specialist Jim Bajan adjusting the camera there for a better view of Drew Gaffney. As Gaffney breathes in and out a pre-selected mixture of gases from this instrument, his respiratory flow is continuously recorded throughout the test sequence.
That's affirmative. And just to let you know what we're doing here, we've got a lot of people working on the environmental seal, and we're trying to determine by analysis if we'll be able to close the door safely with the environmental seal where it is currently. And we have a lot of good folks working on that. We're hopeful we can clear it by analysis. If we can't, there's a possibility that we'd do an EVA to replace or remove that seal. We wouldn't do that EVA any earlier than flight day 4, and would, of course, work on the timeline as a minimal impact to science.
And we have
Come to the camera.
Assist Payload Operations. Mission Specialist 3, Ray Seddon, is conducting her session on Experiment 22, the Barrow Reflex Investigation.
Columbia, Houston, we're back with you, and we have live TV in the module.
And Huntsville, Jim has started into 198, and Ray's doing 022, about a third of the way through.
And copy. Ray is doing 022. We have on TV, and MS1 is doing 198.
That's correct. At
Thank you.
MS1, and hitting SBN on the first time through, I got distracted and I didn't start to do it right, so I aborted that run without taking much of an inspiration. Should I go back and finish it at the end of the set?
Stand by one, Jim. Jim, science advises if you would, go back and do it again.
This is Payload Operations. Drew Gaffney is assisting Ray Seddon in fastening the cuff for the Barrow Reflex experiment. Millie Hughes Fulford is now conducting her test session on pulmonary function investigation, experiment 198. Millie Hughes Fulford is still conducting part of her session on the pulmonary function investigation. The device she is assembling right now is a spirometry assembly, and it helps to calibrate the instruments used for this experiment.
The crew also, a little earlier today, was informed that they will have hopefully a good opportunity to see the Soviet space station Mir. That opportunity is upcoming at about 1 day, 4 hours, and 36 minutes. That's about little more than 30 minutes from now. At the closest approach, the crew should be able to look directly overhead out the upper flight deck windows and see Mir at a distance of about 218 nautical miles. That will be the closest approach to that space station. The orbiter Columbia will be maneuvered to an attitude to give a good viewing out the overhead windows for the crew, and that will occur during the crew's meal, their lunch period today, and should not impact the Space Lab operations in any way.
Yeah, we're using the same harness PMS assembly that we used on the last Olympic for this echo, so the numbers are all the same. We're getting ready to send down blood pressures now through the 198, and then we'll do the echo on subject 3.
Copy.